Today, I'm going to take a little time away from my time away to talk about why I don't EDC handcuffs. Alright man, take a seat, buckle up. Ordinarily we'd start with orientation of the car here, but we got calls pending and we got to get to them. So, we're rolling. We're going to have to learn on the way. Alright, today So a popular question that I've gotten since I became a cop was from people asking me, why don't you carry handcuffs when you're off duty? And it's funny because I very, very rarely find a cop who actually carries handcuffs when they're off duty, and very rarely do I have cops ask me why I carry handcuffs when I'm off duty, so I assume it's something that people ask because they don't have a lot of experience either with handcuffs themselves or with trying to carry them when they're not working, because they're either not allowed to or they've just never thought of it. Now there's a variety of reasons that I don't carry handcuffs when I'm off duty. One, and the easiest one to get out of the way, is the weight. These handcuffs weigh about 10 ounces. These are nickel Smith & Wesson Model 100s, and at 10 ounces I could easily carry a lot of other things that I'm more likely to need than handcuffs that are easier to carry. For instance, I could carry a multi-tool. For the weight of those handcuffs, I could carry a spare magazine for the weight of those handcuffs. In fact, I could carry a multi-tool and a spare magazine for the weight of one set of handcuffs. So which of these am I more likely to need? Am I more likely to need a spare magazine? Am I more likely to need a multi-tool? I would say I'm way more likely to need a multi-tool than I am to need handcuffs or a spare magazine. So why would I pick something that I'm very unlikely to need to carry around every day when I could carry other things that weigh a little bit less and would have a lot more utility for me? Now the argument can be made, yeah sure, you could carry a multi-tool instead of handcuffs, but when you need handcuffs, really nothing else will do. Well, that kind of gets me into the whole issue of things that when you need them, nothing else will do. And I completely subscribe to this for most of the equipment that I carry when I'm working, and most of the equipment that I keep in my car or in the trunk of the squad. But with everyday carry stuff, I don't subscribe to it. And there's a very simple reason. It's that whole weighing down thing that I talked about in the original EDC video. Let me explain a little further in a slightly different way that hopefully will make more sense. A lot of guys will tell you, and it's interesting because very few of them actually do this in real life, but they'll tell you, hey, if you carry a gun off duty, you should be carrying your duty weapon off duty. And if you're carrying your duty weapon off duty, man, you got to carry your badge off duty. You got to carry the big badge just in case something happens. Then you got your gun and you got your ID, your emergency ID. Okay, cool, got you. That kind of makes sense. And they'll say, well, if you're carrying a gun, you know, the most likely thing to go wrong with a gun is the magazine goes bad. So you got to carry a spare magazine when you're off duty. And at this point, this is when I start checking out. I'm like, I don't know about, you know, going to the band recital and needing a full-size pistol and a spare magazine and my full-size badge. I've never, you know, a couple times I've had to use my gun when I was off duty. Just the fact that the gun was there and I was a cop was more than enough to take care of the situation. But I see this is pretty outside the norm of what's going to happen. But yeah, sure, we go this far. We do this logical extension. All right, if we're off duty and something happens that requires the use of a firearm, this is definitely the firearm I want. And if I need the use of a firearm, I want to have my backup magazine. So we'll stick with that for now. This is, if there's a big emergency, if somebody's shooting people or somebody's getting killed or something, this is probably what I want to have on me. I'll grant you that. Then they go, well, because you've got all of this stuff with you and you're ready to take care of an emergency, well, you should be ready to take care of as many emergencies as possible. So you're going to want to have some sort of secondary weapon, you know, a baton or OC or something like that. And I go, OC is pretty light. A baton, you know, I don't know about that. I mean, you're really packing on weight. You start carrying around a baton. And they say, well, you know, it's so that you have a more well-rounded ability to defend people and protect life and yada yada yada. And I go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then of course they come up with the, well, if you're going to carry all that other stuff, you need to carry handcuffs, because what are you going to do with the guy once you've subdued him or stopped the situation? Oh, no. See, the handcuffs get into a fundamental difference between what we're talking about. When we're talking about a gun, we're talking about somebody's life being in danger. When we're talking about carrying a bigger gun, we're talking about somebody's life being in danger. When we're talking about spare magazines, we're talking about our life being in danger. When we're talking about a baton or some other secondary type weapon, a taser or OC spray, we're talking about protecting somebody physically from injury. When we're talking about handcuffs, we're talking about doing work for free. Now, that's a funny little joke way of putting it, but realistically, when I'm off duty, do I want to be arresting people? Now, I have the statutory authority where I'm at to arrest people when I'm not working anywhere in the state, and actually, incidentally, in the state next door as well. It's an interesting little tidbit of knowledge for everybody. But do I want to, and have I ever? There's only been one incident where I've arrested someone when I wasn't working as a cop, and that was when I was working security at a library, and a guy wouldn't get out of the women's bathroom. If you think about that, that's the only time. Every other time when I was working security, I was able to take care of the situation without arresting the person or waiting until whoever was on duty to come and do the arresting for me. So if I have never arrested somebody even working security, and I've pretty well established the fact that I've worked a lot of security before, and I've never arrested somebody when I was just working out in the world off duty, what would make me want to start arresting somebody? Well, we have to kind of look at why people would want to arrest somebody when they're off duty. Now, if someone's life is in danger, and we've got our tool for when their life is in danger, we take care of that situation. If the person gets away, we have protected life. Right? If we shoot them and they take off running and they've got a hole in them, and we've got another person that's injured, we've got a scene to secure, we're calling the police, what do we really want to be chasing them down to handcuff them? Maybe, maybe not. I guess that's a kind of a personal issue. But for me, I don't see the purpose in trying to handcuff someone that I've shot. If I've shot them, it's either worked or it hasn't. And if they run away, I'm sure we'll find them later when they get to the hospital, because hopefully I've hit them. Now with the baton, let's say guy starts whomping on somebody and I OC spray him or baton him or tase him or something like that. It either works or it doesn't. Most of the time it works, but either it works or it doesn't. And if at the end of one guy pounding the crap out of another guy and me whomping him with baton or pepper spraying them or tasing them, they get up and they run off, have I not accomplished my goal of protecting that person that I was protecting? I think I have. And if that guy who's the offender runs away at that point, I mean, maybe that's not the ideal situation. I'd prefer to pin him to the ground and keep him there until I can get authorities there. But if he runs away, have I failed at my goal of protecting the person that I was originally there to protect? I don't think so. So if we want to arrest people when we're off duty, if we want to put people in handcuffs when we're off duty, we have to ask, is it for some purpose or is it just to satisfy our ego? Now, I have no ego for arresting people. I've worked for over 10 years, and I figure we're going to conservatively speak here, very conservatively speak. I've arrested 1 to 2 people every week, and I'm not talking traffic arrests and petty dope arrests. I'm talking actually arrested 1 to 2 people a week for actual offenses that actual people care about with actual victims for 10 years now. So that's somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people, and I have arrested pretty much all of them with this same pair of black handcuffs that you've seen before. You've seen them in my duty belt video up there. These are the handcuffs that I've used. After 500 to 1,000 arrests, really what do I have to prove? Do I have to prove to people that I'm not being lazy by not arresting the person, by not handcuffing the person? I don't think I have anything left to prove. So my ego isn't really involved in the decision of whether or not to carry handcuffs. It doesn't really matter to me if most people get away. If it does matter to me that they get away, I'm probably going to pin them to the ground, and that's what we practice defensive tactics for. That's why we go to those classes. That's why we have those classes at the academy. That's when we fight with people, we should be using the proper risk and armbar locks and things like that so that we can hold someone to the ground until the proper authorities come. And let's remember that handcuffs are just a tool of arrest. Putting handcuffs on somebody doesn't make them arrested. And this is an interesting legal point for a lot of people. A lot of people don't get, you put handcuffs on them, what am I being arrested for? It's like, well, I'm not really arresting you for anything yet. However, you are being detained because you were fighting with that guy and you both beat the living crap out of each other. Until I can investigate this, we're not all going to stand around and talk about it while you continue to beat the crap out of each other. You guys are going in handcuffs, you're going to sit on the ground, we're going to discuss this, we're going to find out what's going on, and it's going to be for everybody's safety that they're put in cuffs. So cuffs are a tool, and I can arrest people without putting them in handcuffs. In fact, I frequently do. Sometimes we get people that just, for whatever reason, you can't put them in handcuffs. You get a 90-year-old lady who doesn't have a driver's license anymore, because it's been expired for over 2 years and we're going to arrest her. Am I really worried about the 90-year-old blue hair attacking me? Are the handcuffs necessary, or are the handcuffs more likely to cause her harm? So I don't necessarily need handcuffs to arrest someone. I can pin someone to the ground and arrest them. I can hold them in place and arrest them. I can lock them into a building, which that once happened before, and essentially arrest them. They're not free to go. And they're physically kept from going anywhere. And that's the whole purpose of handcuffs. Handcuffs are just a more convenient method of arresting people when you're on duty. Now, convenience is at least part of the reason that it's really, really hard to carry handcuffs when you're off duty. So when you carry handcuffs and you don't have a duty belt on, you've got a couple of different options. There's companies that make like a little case that you can put them in that goes in the back of your belt. Now this makes the handcuffs stick out pretty far. So you've got the thickness of the cuffs, and then you've got the thickness of the case around it to give you an idea of how thick handcuffs are. Here they are next to a J-frame, and here they are next to a standard 9mm 40 caliber Glock. You can see they're not an insignificant thickness. Carrying handcuffs around are like carrying around another single stack 9mm 380. The other way that you can carry handcuffs is by just slinging them over the back of your belt. So the first method, if you have some sort of case that you put them in, is that they stick out pretty far from your belt, and you are also carrying the weight of the case, and these things are 10 ounces to start with, so now you're talking about 12 ounces of something that you're very unlikely to use. Imagine essentially having a holster with a single stack 9mm on it, or a single stack 380 on the holster on your belt, on top of whatever else you're carrying. The other method is just dropping them over your belt. Works a little easier. It's a little thinner in presentation. It takes a lot less effort to carry them initially, but the problem is that they tend to bounce up and fall down your pants in the crack of your butt, or they fall off the outside of your pants and onto the floor, which, as we talked about in the EDC video, I don't really like people knowing that I'm a cop and when I'm not working, and having handcuffs fall from the back of your belt onto the concrete either leads to people knowing that you're a cop, or a lot of laughs when you talk about, I thought I left those at home in the bedroom. So when I look at the totality of what I'm doing, of what I can get for the same weight price as handcuffs, and when I look at whether my ego is involved with carrying handcuffs, and I look at the utility of handcuffs for any purpose other than putting on people and holding them in place, I figure that my off-duty handcuffs should probably stay with my security stuff or next to the bed. Now, I'm sure some people would disagree with that assessment, and they want to carry their full-size gun, 2 sets of handcuffs, an extendable baton, backup gun, badge with the lanyard and the multi-tool and a spare mag for the backup gun and all sorts of other stuff. But frankly, that's just not for me. So I don't carry handcuffs off duty. I figure for 10 ounces, I'd rather have my coffee cup. Works better as an impact weapon too. Well, if you like this video and you like seeing a little bit of behind the scenes of being a police officer and the behind the scenes stuff of how I do things when I'm not working, you'll love the behind the scenes of how I make these videos. Go check out the Patreon page, and for $1 a month you can see how all this gets put together and get sneak peeks of what's coming up in the future. For right now, you guys be safe, and we'll see you next week. Well, if you like that video, go ahead and subscribe, because there's a whole lot more to come. As soon as I finish up these calls, go 10-8. County 291.